Uh, Good evening. It's February 25th, 2025, and I'm calling the Groton Board of Education special budget meeting to order. It is 6:04 p.m. And to start, I would just like to say that the board as a whole has had a very long, some might say exhaustive um, process the last 2 months. I think we started January 6th officially on the budget. We have had a lot of meetings, had a lot of questions. Some have been pretty challenging, I think some might say. But we have had an FAQ with I believe it's over 100 or around 100 questions, um, about this budget, and that the administration has gotten back to all of those, I think, at this point, or nearly all of them, which I appreciate. And now we have hopefully the last meeting to approve the budget that we've been working on, and I would like to start that by seeing if there was any more discussion on the document. Now is projected on lines 39. I'm sorry, I'm trying to see which lines it is here. 39, 40, 41. I think we had some discussion. I think it was mostly done, but I just wanted to see if anybody else had any more questions on those. All right. Clint, if somebody raises their hand, I don't see it, just let me know, because I am
One of us will do. It should show up in the participants panel if you click on that.
all right. I got everybody on my screen now. All right. So if we don't have any questions, I guess we can go and just start line item voting on the items. One thing I would like to start, it's not highlighted, but there was discussion and there was a proposal for a number on lines 29 and 30, and this has to do with the superintendent's office and the what is the other office? Well, actually, it's lines, yeah, 29 and 30. I apologize. Yeah, the superintendent's office, and I am blanking on the other office, the HR office. So there was originally, one thing I would like to do is change this 10 and 75. If anyone, if everyone's all right with this, it's 85,000 together, and line 29 is really encompassed in line 30. So if there's no objections, maybe we just change that to an 85 for clarity purposes. Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
I have no objection to that.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, I think
ahead.
that's
This is
I
my,
think it's a good idea.
All right.
I'm good too.
All right.
No objection.
All right. So we had a lot of talk about this, but there was a previous number floated. We started a vote and we didn't finish it, of 115,696 on that line. The superintendent gave us a lot of reasoning last night on the $85,000 deduction on that line. So I guess at this point, I would like to, maybe we'll just start it with a vote on the 85,000 number and see how many people are in agreement with leaving that at that number. So go ahead and just raise your hand so I can write this down. So if you are in a favor of leaving that number as the superintendent proposed, 85,000 on line 30, please raise your hand.
Uh, um,
Would you want to just do a roll call maybe?
Yeah, if everybody, yeah, sure. Jay,
Aye.
Ian,
Aye.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. I thought you said me.
yeah, Dean,
I'm in favor as well. This is Thomas.
Ian is in favor. Andrea,
before I'm gonna vote yes for everything that Susan proposed. We hired a superintendent, and where we got the idea that we were that person is beyond me. So I am supporting everything that Susan's proposed.
all right. Um, um, let's see if I've got everything here. Myself, I am an aye on that. And then, opposed. And,
Adrian, did you get me?
oh yeah, I'm sorry. No, I didn't get you, Mike. Were you, what was your vote?
I'm a yes. I'm a
Um,
yes.
All right, thank you.
You didn't get me either, Adrian.
All right, yeah, Jen, what were you?
I'll support the 85.
All right, so I think I've got unanimous. All right. All right, scrolling down, I believe that we talked about all of these items already. Did anyone have any outstanding questions, anything we left kind of on the table with these? Ian? Or Ian, is your hand up?
Yeah, sorry. It was up inadvertently for the vote, but I did have a question that I want to kind of float out there. But I'd rather wait until we clear all the other numbers.
All right, yeah, just remind me when we finish and we'll
Sure.
go
Yeah,
back.
look, just have one more item to propose on the floor after we're done with everything else.
All right. So if we scroll down to line 38, is now encompassed in line 42.
I'm listening to my meeting while I'm fixing the house. I'm finally getting these anchored in. What is the root of
All right, so why don't we just start, so we'll get to that later. We just start with line 39. So this is $150,000 deduction for the aids.
I just have a quick question. Those last few lines, like 31 through 37, I'm interpreting that as where there are no cuts and that we agreed upon that. Is that correct or no?
Yeah, unless, yeah, and Ian was saying that he might want to go back to those in a little bit, which we can do. But
Okay.
why don't we just finish talking about the aids and then why don't we just do this group of them and then we can go back up there if that's all right, Mike?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So yeah, the superintendent proposed cutting 150,000 from aids and function 1101. I'm just gonna give me just a second to find that so we can tell people what that line is at. So the superintendent's proposed budget for that line item was 557,569, and the proposal is to reduce it by 150,000. Is there any more discussion on that? Is there any questions? Ian?
I was just wondering, is that lower than what it is this year if they do that?
our budget, the budget book says that this year the budget was 295,351. I did a little bit of research in this, so I have a few numbers that I can give you. The actual spending on this line item in fiscal year 23 was $301,000. In 24, the budget was 474,630, and what we actually spent was 351,646. And then in 25, the initial budget, just had that up. Give me just a second to get to that. The initial superintendent's budget, which I thought was interesting, was 669,600. Oh no, I'm sorry, substitute line. That was the wrong line. Line 130, teachers' aides. The superintendent's proposed was 528,637, and through all the talks last year and negotiations, that had gotten reduced down to 295,351. So that's kind of the history and where we are right now on it.
And I think that, can I just add in, Adrian? I think the
Yeah.
295,351 is really slim. I mean, I'm just really hoping we, we're able to do that. I know Ray had looked at it, but I do feel there is some room in the regular aids, and whether it's 100 or 150, whatever this board decides, I feel like there is room to take from there, but not a whole lot. 100 to 150. That's about it.
All right. Yeah. And
Yeah, I
then,
was kind of thinking halfway.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was just kind of thinking halfway.
I was just going to ask a question of Susan. I'm trying to think of where we would like aids to be, and like a little bit more. I mean, we know we've got them over lunchtime, and are bus aids included in this line?
Bus aid, yes, bus aids are included as well. Yep.
All right. And then, I mean, one thing I wanted to point out is preschool aids. And I believe that a discussion last year, we went from 2 per classroom
Mhm.
down to 1 per classroom. And from the
Right.
FAQ, it appears that now we have 1 per classroom, 1 special ed teacher, and then any other paras that are in the room are typically assigned to students. So they're not really available to work with the whole classroom.
So the paras
so-
have either one in the morning, one in the afternoon, or one all day long, just like the kindergarten teachers have. But
Yeah.
in both situations, if there's a child who needs a one-on-one, we get the para educator for that child. Or if they are sharing like a couple students, with one para, depending on what the IEP says. Most often in preschools, you do see another adult plus the aide in that classroom, but they are servicing a particular child or a particular few children,
Yeah.
where the
So-
aide services the teacher and all the kids.
Yeah, so the para is really there to support the student that they're assigned to.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
That's
in
right.
certain situations, they may need to help out,
Mhm.
but they really shouldn't be relied on as part of the core support in the classroom.
That's right.
So, I guess if I started out with a question, if by reducing this, could we go back to having 2 aides in those preschool classrooms? Would this number support that kind of an increase? I know we've had a hard time just filling the positions in general, but from a budgeting standpoint, if we had all of the aide positions that we'd like to have filled, would that also include going back to 2?
I actually think even if we cut back 100,000, so we would be at 457 or 75, as Mike said, split in between, that we could probably potentially have an extra person in that room as an aide for each of the 8 classrooms.
All right, and then I mean, would you say that from your dealings with the special ed teachers that they feel that is highly beneficial to the classroom, to the operation? of
Yes, I
special ed?
would say that I've heard that from them.
All right.
Yeah,
that's
honestly, I have.
good. All right. Ian? Did you have a question, Ian, or?
Hold on. Yes, sorry, my mic was not clicking on. Yeah, I just want to get some clarity because a little bit of a blurry line for me in my mind. Uses to like aides versus paras. I mean, we're talking about the preschools. Were those aides or paras in the preschool classrooms that we're talking about?
So we have two different groups. The aides are regular ed aides or aides that, so, you know, whether they help on the bus, whether they help in the cafeteria, they're all mostly part-time people. They help in the morning session or the afternoon session for either preschool or even kindergarten. You might have two, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, but they are not part of the paraeducator union. So
Okay.
paraeducators are really have that extra training to work with students with special needs, particularly on a one-to-one or a few small group. And so they're, you know, they do a lot of some of the same things too. You know, they're helping, assisting, but the aides are more assisting in the classroom for all kids and for the teacher.
Understood. So aides are general ed and more, you know.
Yeah.
But paras are in the union and they have special ed training.
Right.
So what we're talking about here are aides that are general purpose aides that would be able to kind of float around and kind of go as needed into whatever classrooms.
Well,
that
they're
are deemed
usually
necessary.
assigned. They're usually assigned to a bus or a classroom. So
right. Yeah, usually like, but should things change and develop differently over the year, they could be reassigned if needed. But either way, like they're there to support the general ed
right.
students, and they're kind of like they're not attached to a special ed case.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's good to know. All right. I'm ready to talk some numbers, I guess. But I would be in favor of like as small a cut as possible here. Just again, as I said last night, like I'm interested in making sure that we have resiliency and flexibility on the elementary level. So I could see like, you know, I like Mike's proposal of a halfway. I would even go so far as only taking 50,000 here. But I would want to, yeah, it's like, so I'd want to see an investment of 75 to $1,000, or sorry, 75 to $100,000. On top of the, I guess, so what we're looking at is the overall number. We're just talking about the differential right now, but the current proposed number is $557,569.
Right.
With which represents an increase of $262,218.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we were to only reduce that increase by $50,000, we'd be looking at an increase of $218.
And Adrian actually has the actual Excel spreadsheet, so he can put in a number to let you guys look at that. That's why I got these Excel sheets out to you.
Yeah, Ian.
So you could look at what would 100,000 look like, and what would the percentage be, or 50 or 75.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now we're at 7.53 with all the things that you've agreed to.
Got it. Well, I'm not too concerned about the overall percentage at this point. I'm looking at just kind of like the immediate impact for this line, and just trying to find the middle ground here. So I guess I'll make a motion for a reduction of only $50,000 on line 39.
So a total reduction of 50 instead of 150. Is that what I'm hearing you say, Ian?
Correct.
All right, I guess we can start by seeing, is there any, I guess we can start this with just a list of hands if people want to raise them. Is there anybody that, would support, reducing that line by $50,000?
If you mean taking a $50,000 cut, I'm supportive.
Instead of 150,000.
Yes.
All right.
So are you taking you want the end goal to be 50,000 or do you want the end goal to be negative
What I propose
150?
is
Because
this. Sorry, I'll just do it on the page.
It would be,
That's what I'm proposing.
it would be a
okay,
$50,000 deduction. The superintendent proposed $150,000 deduction. I think she said she feels that we could return some services to where they were with between what, a $75,000 to $100,000 reduction.
Mm-hmm.
We could return, two aides to each of those preschool rooms with that. And Ian proposed just a $50,000 reduction, so smaller than superintendent's.
It's a smaller reduction, which equals a larger investment in the elementary level.
All right. So who else would like to support the $50,000 reduction? Got no one.
Me for sure.
All right, Mike. So what do we have?
I would support that proposal. This is Jay.
All right. I would support it as well, which I think puts us at, so Jay, that puts it at 5, 6, I think. 6
Who do you
people.
have on your list of supporters?
All right, so support a reduction of 50 is Ian, Andrea, Dean, Jay, you said you would support it. Mike, and I would support that as well. So that's 6 in support of. Any opposed? Abstention?
I'm
I don't know.
opposed.
You're
I just don't want to, yeah, I'm opposed.
all right. All right. So that passes at 50,000. And so that would bring that line item to slightly less than the superintendent's proposed budget last year as well. So whatever we had, for last year.
Yeah, for the record, I did just save this as a alternate version, so I'm not altering. I guess, well, whatever. I mean,
Yeah, I think I made you a copy, Ian, so you guys can play around on this.
Yeah.
Get it right.
Yeah.
And I would say, too, that I would recommend the same thing for the subs. I think we could go down 50. I think I'm rethinking the 150 as being a little high. And that way you'd have the 50 for the aides, 50 for the subs. So you do get 100,000 savings in there. But I think that's going to be very much more doable for us and give more support where it's needed.
okay.
You guys have influenced me.
So why don't we just change that number to 50
In a good way.
now, if that's what the superintendent's proposing for now.
I'll put that in as the second number on the table, that 50,000.
Oh, all right. Yeah, sorry if I'm doing this wrong, please let me know. Um,
Oh, no, it's great. You get three numbers on the table and then you decide on the most recent one first. So in the case of Ian, you could say that like I had that alternate and then he had another one and we went for that first. If it didn't pass, then we'd go back up the line. So it is perfect.
all right. All right. And then, I guess just for clarification, Susan, are we officially moving this into 1700? Because it is a district-wide substitute number? Are we moving it out of elementary and into district-wide?
I will check with Ray to see how complicated that's gonna be. But we do know that the sub is not just elementary, it's for all. So let me ask him what's gonna be the best way to do that. Should that be in the 1700, which is the district wide? And if we can do that, we certainly will.
Or somehow split it up by grade level?
Yeah, I know that's kind of
Or
complicated.
not
I
grade
think that
level,
got messy.
But,
That got
you know,
messy
by
the last
elementary,
budget.
middle, high, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for clarification, because it kind of makes it seem like we're spending more in elementary than we are by putting it all there.
Right.
So, all right, so there's a number of 150 and a number of a deduction of 150 and a deduction of 50 on the floor. And this is from a starting budget number of 950,000. Which, just for clarity, it seems like we're going to be around that number this year.
Yep, that's right.
About 950. So we'd be
Right.
reducing from what we think we're going to spend this year.
But we're not going to be adding more building subs. I really think we have the right number of building subs. Although there are times when you have to hire even a other person, that's not a building sub if you're short. So.
All right. Ian, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to get clarity on, so the projected expenditures this year is 950,000.
No, it's more like, it's more than the 777 or whatever we have in there. It looks like it could be up to 900, but we're just not sure yet.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I just, my mentality on this is I'm just concerned about like running short or like tending towards a deficiency. And, if we're running that fine line, if it's like right around 900,000, I'd be inclined to do a zero cut here so that we are up to the initial recommended amount by the superintendent of 950,000, because that puts us a little bit past what the trend is for this year, which means that we might end up with a slight surplus, but worst case, like we are covered for a little bit excess should costs run over, just in case, and it's not a huge amount at the end of the day, but I'd be in support, if others are in support of the 50,000 cut here, to the initial increase. I guess I could live with it, but I'd rather just have a little bit more of a buffer, just so we don't end up in a situation where we have to transfer funds from another function code or something like that later in the year.
Ian, did you put 0 on the board? Is that your third number?
Yeah, I guess I'll put 0 out there. Why not? Sure.
0, 50, and 150 deductions. So I apologize, but I'm going to have to ask Mike, I guess, how I'm supposed to handle this, like weighing the different numbers.
So it's the third number. So you consider the 0 first and vote on it. If that doesn't pass, you go to in this case, the 50,000. And then I guess the original number is what we had in the table before, 150,000.
Right,
All right.
but
So just kinda, like-
sorry, go ahead.
No, you
I
can
was
go for it.
gonna say that as we eliminate options, like say the 0 fails and we move to the 50 and the 50 fails, or I mean, as we eliminate options, there'd be an opportunity for another number to be put on the floor. You know, so if the 0 fails, someone could move, say, 25,000 if they wanted to move more incrementally. And we could run that number, and if that one fails, then it would go to the 50. That's a possibility if somebody felt like that might be a better approach to go. But we have three broadly spaced numbers now, so that's in good shape. But if we wanted to get a little more fine tuned, I don't think that would be considered frivolous because there's still substantial amounts.
All right.
Under, so you know, this comes from Roberts. Roberts, you know, allows you to go out two amendment levels. So this is where we get the three numbers from. So you could have the number that's moved, and then an amendment, and then another amendment, and then you start with the furthest one out and then work your way in. But
All
Ian
right.
is right. If you vote down the last one that was proposed, now you have a space for proposing yet another third number, and you can do that ad infinitum. Nobody
All
likes
right.
that, but so there's no necessary cascade until people just sort of out of ideas.
All right. Jay, did you have a question or a statement or something you'd like to concern?
Yes, I may have to step away for a minute, but as I said last night, I don't support the cut for the teachers or for the subs. And I'm sticking by the 50,000 for the aides. And I'll come back as soon as I can.
All right, thank you.
So would we count that as a vote in favor of the 0?
Yeah, so let's say we just had the vote for the 0 and Jay voted for that. I think that would be a reasonable interpretation for that.
Okay.
So,
What are the three numbers on the floor?
all right, so anyone else that would support the, not taking a deduction for substitutes?
Hey, sorry, was that me?
Yeah, anyone else that would, so you floated that number, right? So now we're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
vote
So
on it?
I'm in favor of the 0 cut
All right.
here.
Anyone else for a 0?
That's Jay and Ian.
All right. All right, so now I will move on to a $50,000 deduction.
No, I'd like to make a motion for 25,000.
All right. So now would I put that one on now?
Yeah.
All right. So $25,000 deduction.
I'm in favor.
So one thing, do we have to second the motions? I'm happy to second it. I just want to get the
No.
process right.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm happy
we're-
to second it, and I will
Yeah.
second that.
We're doing this very informally. I figured the rate that we're going, the way we do things with such a small group, there'll be one vote tonight, which is the bottom line.
Right.
That
Right.
has to be official.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right.
Kind of a hybrid.
So any other support for the $25,000 deduction besides Ian? All right. All right, let's move on to the $50,000 deduction. Anyone in support of that?
I'm in favor.
And,
I support it. Mike,
all right, I'm gonna support that one as well.
I do too.
All right, so we have 3 in support of it, and Jay is away. All right,
I would have thought you had more than that. Well, I don't know.
you support the 50, Dean?
No,
50,000? You don't support it? All right.
No.
Jen?
No,
No, all right.
How many of us are left? I don't see everybody.
All right, and Mike, you don't support it?
No, no, I support it. I support the 50,000.
All right, so that's,
So yes, I support it.
all right. So, that puts us as four. How many are in the meeting now?
There'd be
Jay,
7 of us.
7, I think.
Yeah, so I would count Jay as an abstention. There's more in favor than against, so.
All right, yeah, so,
Abstention, yeah, that's good.
all right, so it's
Is that 3, 2, 1?
4.
Yeah, I think that's it.
four-
We got it, Ian.
4, 2, 1.
4-2-1. Yeah,
Yeah,
Sorry, you said 4 or
4-2-1.
3?
Yeah,
4, 2, 1.
so in favor of
Adrian?
is Andrea, Ian, myself, and Mike. Dean and Jen are not in favor, and then we'll put Jay as an abstain.
And,
I just,
Adrian,
Yes,
I only got 3 yeses. Who's the 4th?
Andrea?
so Andrea, Ian,
That's
myself.
it. Ian, I
And-
didn't hear.
Oh,
Okay.
got
Thank
it.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, Ian's on and then Mike, so those are the 4.
Thank you all.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Joan.
We'll
and
leave
I
it-
suggest not counting Jay as an extension since he's not in the meeting right now. Just have it 4-2.
Got it.
Yeah,
Just
that's-
make him a 0.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
that's fair. All right. So moving on to line 41. So this is reducing 2 FTEs out of elementary teachers that are retiring. The superintendent has been clear that she does not feel those spaces need to be filled this year.
However, I did say, Adrian, with the way enrollment flows through this district and all the comings and goings, I wouldn't object to having that money in the budget. If we needed it, we could then have it, and we would make sure that we hired that teacher. You know, like you had looked at some of the cases where there were larger numbers in the 3rd and 4th, or the 4th and 5th grades. So, you know, we could just reduce 1 FTE and be a little more safe and keep the others. So it's up to you all what number you want to move. I would be okay with whatever you decided.
All right. Ian?
Yeah, so as am I muted or can you hear me?
Yeah, yep.
So I'll so we might move 64. I'm inclined to move 0. But I don't know. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, if we wanted to go gradually again, I guess, you know, a structure where if there was a motion for a 64 and then a motion for 0, we could kind of work our way, you know, toward, you know, if we had to go gradually, we could. But I'm in favor of 0 change to this line.
All
I'd
right,
like
so
to
we
make
have
a comment, Adrian.
yes.
Last night, Susan, and Susan, correct me if I misremembered. Last night, Susan said there were 4 retirements. She's keeping 2, and she was willing to reduce 2. So now what we're doing is technically keeping 4 additional staff, and based on enrollment decreasing, the 2 that's being kept can be utilized for those other grades. Like 4th grade, I think, was high at like 20 or 23.
You're remembering very accurately. That's exactly what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd have to remember on line 39 and line 40, you've basically removed 200,000 of reduction already. And if you remove this, it's going to be another 128. And I know we need to take care of the kids, we need to make sure, but if Susan originally thought that she could support the district, who are we to decide how to manage the district? And we also need to be concerned about the taxpayers. So that's my comment on this. I will not vote for 0.
All right,
That's it.
all right, Mike?
Thank you. I just want to make sure whatever number we vote, that we're sticking on the FTE that's in the superintendent's approved budget. I don't, proposed budget. I don't have that number in front of me. I think it was 127 FTE. I
There's no
don't
change in the
support this.
FTE. I mean,
Okay, so I can see that there, I would like us to basically every spot that has a teacher right now, for every retirement, I want us to hire back someone new. I understand that that would be at a lower rate, so I could support, I'm fine with putting this as 0. And I could also support a different number, but I'm not putting that up right now.
All right, and just for clarification, the rate that we have up there, 64,000 is a new teacher, right? It's not the savings.
right.
of Retirement, there's already a built-in savings. that's already been
15,000.
That's
Yep.
already been taken in the.
That's right.
budget. And just for clarity, there's a total of, I don't know, 10 teachers retiring or 8 teachers retiring in the district. But the initial discussion, I believe that they were all going to get filled. And now we're talking about filling all but 2. Like, because in the elementaries, I think we have 5 retirements in elementary
Yes,
alone, but we do need some of those teachers.
Right,
that's what-
right.
I don't want to speak for you, Susan, but Dean.
I think one was a speech language pathologist, though.
Yeah.
There were 4 classroom and then
Yeah,
one.
there's a music
Yep.
teacher I saw in there. So, but
Mhm.
yeah, Dean and then Ian.
Okay, so let me see if I understand. The proposed FTE that I see in the book is 127. Susan, are you saying that with a $128,000 cut that's in this line, we still have the 127?
Yes,
Okay,
because it says FTE, but we're really taking the salary. We've got the FTEs configured based on enrollment of what our needs are. But due to the retirements and we had not taken any money out to move the budget down because we were holding on, basically waiting for this process to unfold a little bit and get closer to knowing more towards the end of the year, just in case.
so
But
so if we didn't take the 128 out, if we left it in there, you'd essentially have spare cash to do something else, hire 2
Or-
more teachers or hire
Yeah.
tutors,
Right.
etc. Yeah, okay.
Right. And we still have money in there for 2 of the teachers at least. The speech pathologist, I have to fill with the speech pathologist.
When you say money in there, you mean money after the 128?
Yes, I think there's 4 positions total from the grade 1 going down to 3 instead of 4.
So taking the 128 does not prevent you from filling the positions that are open.
No,
Okay. Yeah, so what it comes down to is leave the 128 in there for Susan to figure out what else to do with it. But it's not, we take 128 out and 2 bodies go.
you take 2 out and you've accounted for those already shown in the FTE, 2 bodies that are missing out of the
And what
4.
Yeah, what I'm saying is if we let's say we voted majority, yeah, let's cut 128 out of the proposed budget, just like it says in line 41 right now. It's not like that means that 2 teachers take a hike.
No,
Okay.
no, but $128,000 takes a hike out of our budget.
Well, yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be nice to have, even
Right.
128, I'll see you
Right.
and raise you,
Right, no,
But we're arguing about the 128 as though there's a direct connection with our current FTEs, the FTEs we would like, et cetera, et cetera. And what I'm seeing here is it sounds like there's a very tenuous connection, if any, between how we're staffed, how we would like to be staffed. And so what does the 128 mean? You seem to be saying that you could do without it, you could staff, you could fill a couple of positions that are empty right now,
Mhm.
that you don't
Yes.
need the 128. Would you like the 128 for something? Sure. This is how I'm gathering. I'm not looking for excuses, so don't misunderstand me. I'm not looking for excuses to cut the 120. I'm trying to understand the reality of what that means.
The reality is that the FTEs that we have in the proposed budget is really based on the enrollment that we have in the budget and would give us very good class sizes between mostly 17 and 20, but there are a couple that are above 20. Mostly in the upper grades. But the finances, we never removed the finances from the budget when we saw those positions being able to be reduced in FTEs at that grade 1 level.
So Susan, what is your bottom line recommendation?
I mean, I really felt that we could reduce the 128, but if the board felt more secure with just one position reduced financially, we could do it that way too. But I felt we could do the 128, but it's really now the board's decision.
Well, I think it's the superintendent's decision. So I want to hear what your recommendation is.
Well, I would say that my recommendation, as Jen said, was to remove the funding for the 2, but I know that I have the 2 others there if we need them.
Adrian,
Funding.
is that good?
Ian and then Mike.
Yeah, so I'm more aligned with Mike's thinking on this, and I understand that it would not reduce the 127 if we took it, so if we kept the full 128, would that increase? Where would the increase could happen anywhere amongst any of the staffing, whether it's certified teachers, the aides, or
No, it would really
paras?
be for the certified teachers. I mean, that's the function that it's under. So and we really are looking at the enrollment and class sizes right now.
Okay.
So, and I would probably say in the elementary level.
So we'd be looking at maybe setting up like a co-teaching situation since we are out of room.
Not necessarily. You know, there might be a class that could be divisible by 4 instead of 3, and instead of having 25 to a class, for instance, they would have more like, you know, a little under 20, 18, 19.
Right. So say if there's like a grade level that had like a couple of classes that were like 24, you could make some adjustments there.
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
And then, you know, like I said, Groton is one of those places that, you know, every week our enrollment list changes. Some leave, some come. You know, we've talked a lot about that. And over the summer, it really is we're rocking and rolling in that central office and in the enrollment office with so many people coming through. So
Yeah. One more question. So if we keep the full 128 in the budget, does that mean that the FTEs would increase to 129?
well, if you were in a situation where you gained more students in a class, like there's that 25 at NEA, let's say they had 3 more kids show up or something like that. Now, it could be that they could have the choice of another magnet school because of the way the lottery is and pulling for the, you know, mobile students, or they might want to stay in that school, and then we could divide it up a little differently if we had, but we have 2 positions already that I know of that we could do that with beyond what the 128 affords.
Well, my interest in keeping the 128 in the budget would be to ensure that we could hire 2 extra full-time teachers to relieve any of the classrooms in the lower levels and in elementary levels that are maxed out to the limit. You know, whether it's through a co-teaching model or through a whatever, is deemed necessary. But I'd be looking for some kind of commitment that it would go towards, a full-time teacher that would, with the intent of relieving wherever the class sizes are the most maxed out. Is that something that, you feel the administration could commit to?
I'm just not sure what that model would look like. I'd have to really consider it. I'd have to also know what the enrollment looked like when we, through the summer and when we start the year, to see how we'd have to prioritize that.
So if the enrollment and the numbers did not meet the expectations to make those changes to relieve any sort of stressed classrooms, what would happen? Where would that money go?
Well, it would be still in the teacher's salary. And,
Just
I guess
unspent?
it could be unspent, or we could spend it in a different way. Maybe we pick up another reading teacher or something to help us out. I mean, I'd want them teaching. And, you've talked a little bit about, supporting remediation.
So this could end up like going towards like remedial supports?
Well, it could be, like you're saying, someone helping out. If someone
Right.
had expertise, let's say in reading, we have a lot of
Like,
teachers who are certified teachers who, might love a year doing reading.
All right, so we could have faith in a commitment that would go towards a certified staff that is in some way going to be targeted towards the classrooms to help support where, as needed, where
But
the class sizes require it.
Even though with this reduction of the 128, you still have those 2 extra FTEs that could help support you in the elementary level. So, I don't know that you'd have to reduce the whole 128.
All right. Well, I'm in support of a zero cut here in principle. But I definitely would want to like kind of have some reporting throughout the year to get, to make sure that the money, like to know where the money ended up going, I guess.
Well, and I would
like,
come
what
back
was
to
the decision?
I come back to you guys through the summer telling you about where we are with enrollment and if
Okay.
there's any changes. So we take a little bit of vacation, but we do see each other over the summer, and I fill you in as we go along. Even with
Understood.
regard to the budget,
And so but would there ever be a scenario where this could be a thing that like would help hire anyone, like the 128 could, if it was divided out differently, would hire more paras or more aides or numerically speaking. Do you envision any
Or-
sort of scenario where that might occur?
Well, yeah, I'd have to come back to you all with a proposal. I'd have to, really, because we're talking
Okay.
about, changing.
So it's all kind of
what
situation
the-
dependent, but
Right,
having the money would at least, give us a pivot point to work from.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. So yeah, I'm
More
ready
to think about, Ian.
Yeah.
All right, Mike and then
Thank you. I just want to say I might lose connection. I'm on station. But I don't have enough information to support the cut, and I do support the zero. I could support something in between too. But my question is, I think we talked about a total of 4 teacher retirements, classroom teacher retirements, elementary. Have any of those 4 individuals retired yet? Like, basically, are they still in the classroom now?
Oh, they're still in the classroom, Mike. And, they'll
Great.
retire at
Thank
the end
you.
of the school year. Yeah. And we'll have a celebration for them because they're
Great.
wonderful people who've been there a long time.
So are we? I'm sure, and I met a lot of wonderful elementary school teachers and other teachers. And then my other question is, so 4 of them retire. How many would we be re-advertising for to hire new people to fill those positions? Is it 2, 4, or what's?
It depends on
if there's a 128 cut.
if there's a 128
If
cut.
there's a 128 cut,
we
Yeah.
would be looking for 2. But I mean, we're gonna still fill we're
Okay.
gonna still
Oh,
fill
okay.
the retirements. You know, the ones, there are certain
No, you're only
retirements we have
filling-
to fill.
You're only filling 2 of them and leaving
Right,
2 of them
right.
unfilled.
Right.
So that's a reduction of 2 FTEs, 2 people in the classroom. And I don't have my budget in front of me right now, but I do know that I believe I remember that there are 127 FTEs right now in the actual for this year. And so, and then in the superintendent's proposed budget is also 127. So if 4 people retire out of that 127, and we're only going to rehire, fill 2 of those positions, then to me, that goes down to 125 FTE. Unless maybe this is the other possibility that right now the actual is 129, but it definitely doesn't say that.
Are you talking about for this year, you mean compared to next year?
This year in the
25.
budget book, it says we have 127 FTE actual. So
Right.
that's what I take as the classroom teachers there.
Right.
If 4 retire and we don't fill 2 of the positions, then we go down to a position. But actually, for me, the total number doesn't matter. Regardless, it's the fact that if we take this 128 cut, $128,000 cut, we are reducing the number of classroom teachers by 2. So that's why I support the 0. I could support a small cut, maybe like 40,000, saying that, you know, the teachers that are rehired are going to be at a lower rate. But so the numbers haven't added up for me. Actually, really, I feel like there's no subtraction being done in terms of FTEs where they should be. And the fact that this came at such a late time, we don't have the information or the time to do it. So still, if you can reconcile that for me, are we going to have the same number of teachers in the classroom in elementary, or is it going to be 2 less for that cut? It sure sounds like it's going to be 2 less.
So there used to be 4 first grade teachers in our district, and now we're down to 3. No, we're down to 4. We're down to a 3-tiered system in first grade. Now,
but
what can happen is that the teachers who are in that first grade classroom can then fill those retirements. So you're not going to lose anybody. So the retirement piece is just that you won't lose any staff out of the 4 because they'll have someplace else to go where the retired teachers are. But they might change classrooms. I'm just talking about the funding is at 128. If we
so there are 2 people that aren't doing anything right now.
There are what?
Because it seems like we're losing capacity. If you reshuffle people, that we don't lose capacity only if someone's not doing anything. But let me say it in a positive sense. I figure every teacher is working real hard and is tasked right now. If we lose 2 spots, then they're working real harder, or our students aren't getting are in bigger classes.
Well, that's it's that phenomenon where in first grade, that kindergarten class was 2/3. Remember the 275 instead of like a 350 number. So you're still going to have class sizes of 20, but you'll have 3 of them instead of 4 of them, which we typically have. So your class sizes aren't affected. You just have fewer students going into the first grade because of the legislation that changed the age for kindergarten this year when they were in kindergarten.
Okay.
So it does. It's like the
and so what Dean was saying was that
crazy problem. But your teachers would still, even with the retirements, your teachers would still have jobs. But we're just taking the funding from it in the 128 and not, replacing. And if we need to add teachers back, we have more funding that is still there.
So what Dean was saying was positing that maybe this $128,000 cut wasn't going to reflect a reduction in staffing.
Right. That's exactly.
But what you're saying is if we are not filling 2 or 3 type position, to me, that is reduction of staffing. I think it should be to everyone else. So to me, I see this as, if we support the 128,000, which is the first number on, we're supporting a cut in teachers to the elementary, those levels that really, really need it. Really, really need the people power. So it's not just a money thing.
Right, right. But you saw the numbers that are reflected in the enrollment. And like I said, most of them range from 17 to about 20, 21, but there are some that are beyond that. I mean, we certainly don't want to go back to the days when I first got here in Pleasant Valley had 27 per 4th grade class, and I had to get aid to help out in those classrooms. So we're not talking like those kind of numbers anymore. Thank goodness.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. But I think if we're reducing the staffing in elementary, we're going that direction.
Right.
Dean?
Yeah. Let me get my hand down before I forget it. So it's one or the other. It can't be two different ways of seeing the same thing. Either the 128 represents a genuine cut, either in existing staff or the ability to rehire a couple of FTEs. Or, as I heard it before, it isn't a cut to anything except the dollar figure. If that's the case, if the second is the case, then really, while we're talking about a potential cut of $128,000, it sounds like if Susan had never included it in the proposed budget to begin with, we wouldn't know that it was missing. She'd still be staffing the same way. And we wouldn't be talking about this except this way. If somebody said, why don't we add $128,000 to the budget because we want to do this or that or the other good thing at the elementary level or wherever? That's how I'm starting to see the $128,000. We're talking about it, lamenting it as a potential cut. Or what it sounds like is really, should we add the $128,000 to the budget? Never mind that, it was already baked into the original proposal. This is what it's all sounding like. But I agree. If removing the 128 removes actual people or the capacity to replace people, that's something to be concerned with. But I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing Susan saying we're adequately staffed. That's without the 128, I'm good. I can handle it. I'm not thinning down, etc. That, in other words, the 128 is, if you will, a stray. I don't want to use the word fat, but I'm fine with people saying, what can we do with the 128? But I just don't see it as, from what I'm hearing, as a cut to anything presently.
And on top of that, Dean, it's kind of a phenomenon that legislation has done to this class. Now, I don't disagree with the legislation. I think being 5 in kindergarten is important. But that whole class is going to go through high school and through as a class of 275 in elementary, and then probably less than that when they hit middle school and high school, where most of our classes start out at 350, 400 in kindergarten and go through, and then they get down into the 200 range or closer to 300 in the high school. Do you know what I mean? So that's going to be a smaller sized group all the way through school because of legislation. And we changed the age so that we only had a 2/3 of a class that we typically have. I mean, that's the best way I can explain, and that phenomenon has caused us to be able to reduce our budget by the 128. And I think it will continue through the years. I don't think next year I'm going to have to put more, unless we get a submarine and they have a bunch of second graders next year or the year after. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, I mean, which, if you want to, we could plan for things like that, just in case we get, we double the number of second graders, or just in case. Or if we wanted to talk along these lines, wouldn't it be great if class sizes were, say, 10 to 12 kids? Let's fund 10 to 12, the staffing for 10 to 12 kids, along with the capital component. And one thing I forgot to mention, the 128, if you're looking at that as, remember this, if you're looking at it as what sort of salary, does that represent the salary of, say, two new teachers?
Mhm.
You know, on the first rung or the first couple of rungs. What about the expense? What about the payroll expenses for those teachers? Those are not accounted for anywhere else. I don't know how fine-tuned, you know, those numbers are, but we'd have to add, if the 128 is, hey, let's add a couple of people because we like them, then the 128 might not cover all their cost.
That could be true.
If you
Because
vote,
you might
if you
have an
vote to keep the
experienced
120, if you
teacher.
vote to keep the 128,
Yeah.
you've also got to add some money to cover their payroll costs, whatever that is.
When we do this estimating, though, that tends to be absorbed in it. It usually covers it pretty
All right.
much. Yeah, with
That was
the
a thought.
comings and going. Yeah.
Andrea? You're muted, just to let you know.
Thank you, I'm sorry. So what I'm hearing is that as we stand right now, we're okay. We don't really need anything else, that this is just extra stuff and funding. And I think I heard last night that there's no place for them for any more staff anyway. There's no room anywhere. Is that correct?
There's not many extra classrooms. That's the way it is, Andrea. But this particular in the two big schools, Thames River and Mystic River, they are able to handle 4 tiers or 4 classrooms per grade level. In their first grade, they typically have 4 classrooms. So does CK and NEA, and they have the classrooms for that. But for this first grade class, because they were a smaller class because the age changed and only 2/3 of the typical kindergartners are coming, so only 275 across the whole district. They will have an extra classroom with that. So there will be a little bit of extra room because of this phenomena of this K1 to going all the way through elementary school, smaller class size.
All right. So then the 128 is covering things that may be, but really right now we're okay the way we are. Correct.
I feel that way, but if the board would feel more comfortable with 64, they could do that. But I feel like this is doable.
Just stay with this. Thank you, in my view. Thank you.
Okay.
Susan, do you know what the maximum class sizing is for kindergarten or first grade? Or maybe Anne Marie knows it, I'm not sure.
Well, I do know that when the board votes each year on your, I guess, your expected class size, it's not even per the contract. It's just, you usually look at 20 for K and 1, 22 for 2 and 3, and no more than 24. I mean, those are kind of more max size, but typically we do have 20, 22. And really in third and fourth, we've been pretty fortunate having, 22, 23, not 24, 27. So in the contracts, you can't go over the 27 without giving some additional support
Right.
in those upper grades.
I mean, my own feeling is that when I look at the enrollment forecast, I mean, I pulled up last year's budget, and we did lose from the proposed in FTE changes in the budget. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what happened because things changed, but we lost one classroom teacher in Charles Barnum and one classroom teacher in Thames River last year. So now we would be losing 2 more, and this has been kind of a progressing trend. And I brought up class sizes, but I'm just going to go to Mystic River, where I believe that we will have an extra classroom if there's enough for one classroom per grade, because first grade is only going to be using 3. But in Mystic River, on that enrollment forecast, it says we're going to have 21 kids in each kindergarten class, which I think is a lot. And I don't see it as the worst thing, especially for a school like that really could use the support and it has a lot of need. I don't see it as a bad thing if the classes had 15 and 16 in them at the current. It would also give us a little bit of a cushion if we do have more kids, because there are, like, when we look at kindergarten next year, I think it averages out about 20, maybe 19 point something, just on that enrollment forecast. So I don't see it as a bad thing. I mean, if we were to run some smaller classes, I think it could help with achievement, especially if we could run smaller classrooms. If we have room in Mystic River or Thames River, to run a little bit smaller classes for those youngers. And I kind of wanted to bring up that, you know, the kind of the surge, or like the little wave of, it's like a slinky, the wave of enrollment that we have. I mean, that's going to be going throughout the system. And last year we, you came up with the TK idea, which was great because we knew we weren't going to have as many kindergartners with
Right.
the age change. So we moved those teachers into kindergarten or into TK, but now we need to move them back into first. And that type of thing.
Or back into kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. But yeah, that year we'll need to move them back, like a year out. It's going to be a continuing thing where we're going to have a small class followed by a big class. So teachers are probably not going to be super excited about, some teachers are probably going to have to move a grade here and there. But I see it as, we're ultimately going to have the same amount of kids in our schools. So the reduction of staffing, along with, if we could reduce some of those classes, I think that in general, like teaching and learning would be more successful. So that's my own feeling, is that that this money, if we were to deduct or not, it should be in teaching staff, and not for other things. So I'm kind of the, you can't split the baby. So like a $40,000 number, it's hard to hire a half of a classroom teacher probably. But I am in support in keeping the staff as we are, because it doesn't seem like the projected enrollment is going to change very much. And we very well may need, we may end up with a few kids and then we don't have any classes running for them, because they're all maxed out, or we'll have very few classes running for them because they're all, maxed out, especially in those K-1, 2 numbers. So I've heard all of the, all the discussion, and I appreciate that. But I still would support kind of keeping the staffing levels as they are, and filling retirements, particularly in elementary. Dean?
Yeah. Okay, so following what you just said, you're in favor of keeping the staff levels where they are. I think we're hearing two different things. I'm hearing that the 128 leaves the staff, removing the 128 leaves the staffing where it is. So if that's correct, then you shouldn't be concerned about removing the 128. But obviously, some people are hearing that removing the 128 results in a staff reduction. So it's one or the other. It's not two sides of the same coin. It's two different coins altogether.
And then I heard it a little differently, Dean. Can I just add this, Adrian? I heard it a little differently. I hear what Adrian is saying is that we could reduce the class sizes even more with those additional staff if we kept that funding. Versus,
then the discussion should be about, hey, we have class sizes of yay big. Let's make them smaller by hiring more people. Let's throw in $128,000. That's really what we're talking about then.
But
So it's being cast as a discussion about whether or not we should cut staff, when really this is what we're talking about is adding staff. And that may be a wonderful thing, but let's talk about it in those terms and not say we're losing staff, we're cutting staff. It's two different things.
I don't necessarily, I'm not proposing, although I would support it down the line, but not right now, reducing general classroom sizes. If we kept this, so I guess I am confused. If we're not filling retirements, then that's reducing staff. I thought I was under the understanding that the numbers that you put in just accounted for that number already. But if we're not filling two classroom teachers due to retirement, then we're reducing.
It depends on what the retirements are, not necessarily in that first grade. So what would happen is teachers would have to move around to fill positions. So we have fewer first grade class. That just happens to be the phenomenon that we're dealing with next year.
I saw there were 2 kindergarten teacher retirements. It looks like
there's at least one. There may be another. I'm trying to think.
It was CK and maybe it was Thames River. Not CK.
There's
Charles,
definitely one at NEA.
Charles Barnum, I think there was a kindergarten teacher retiring on the FAQ. But so having reduction of class sizing, that would take an enormous effort by the board. And this in my opinion, is reduction of a couple of classes, sizing in a couple of classes and leaving a little bit of cushion for more students, because it seems like we're pretty full where we can. So whatever the number is, I would be in support of keeping staffing as it is this year, knowing that we already cut 2 staff last year from the classroom teachers from the elementary schools.
Yes, let's keep the staff. And if we could, what Susan, what I heard Susan saying, it could be wrong, is we're keeping the staff and we can get rid of the 128. And I will point out one more thing, which I pointed out before. There seems to be something not connecting with the FTE that's the FTEs that are being reported. There's something inaccurate about it. This is what leads us to the 7% average teacher salary increase, which is a phantom. And the difference between the FTEs reported in the pink section and the FTEs reported in the green section, or whichever section it is.
And then there's also the frequently asked questions. We have a really nifty chart there too.
So I'm going not so much by the quantitative report, which again, this seems to be something off about that. I'm going by the qualitative report that Susan gave, which is I'm staffed, I remain staffed, I'm fine. Hey, who wouldn't like another 128, but I can keep my staffing without the 128. I don't even know why that's in there.
Well, I do know
I'm
why.
paraphrasing.
Because I didn't take it out.
So I guess for clarity, and this might touch on what Mike's going to say, is so we have in this budget we have 104 classroom teachers is what the FTEs are. So we'll pretend that right now, or it says that our actual for FY25 is 104, and that was proposed in the budget 3 weeks ago was 104. Now, if 2 teachers, are we hiring any new teachers outside of filling some of the retirements? Are we adding any positions outside of the retirements?
So it's almost I have to really see the grade level, and it deals with grade level and certification. So it is a complex 3D problem, because you have to have teachers who are capable of teaching in those slots where the retired people are.
Yeah.
Now,
well,
if you've reduced your first grade classroom, you might have a first grade teacher that can easily slide down to a K.
Yeah. I'll pull up the FAQ and find that out. But so that being said, I mean, I just want to kind of go back to, if we have 104 now, and 2 are retiring, it seems like we're going to have 102, unless two retirements that we're not filling. It seems like we're going to have less staff next year if we're not hiring a new, if we're not hiring, replacement staff. So I guess I'm still confused. I thought that we were just saying that the FTE counts are incorrect or something like that. But
now, I've never said the FTEs are incorrect. I just said that we never took away the funding when we reduced those the 4-tiered first grades into 3-tier.
Yeah,
we left the funding in there.
That would be because we put it into the TK though, right? With those staff members?
No, it really doesn't. It doesn't affect the TK, because TK kids will be going into kindergarten next year. And those TK teachers will roll back up to kindergarten.
All right.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike, and then Jen. I'm going to try to find those.
Yeah, so this is for superintendent. It'll help me, and I think it'll help you. If the board chooses to cut 128,000 from the elementary function code, will that budget support fewer teachers than are currently in the elementary classroom supported under this function code right now?
You will still have what is predicted in the 210. Of course, that I think includes reading teachers.
I'm just
That's for
asking,
total
like, yes or no?
certified staff.
Is it fewer? No, not certified teachers. Is it fewer if we take the cut, or is it the same as it is now in
It's
terms
the
of
same,
number
it's
of
the
people?
same number, it's the same FTEs, it's just the money that's affected. Because I never removed the
But
money
you're
when we did the FTEs, because we were kind of waiting to see how this would shape out.
so we will not see a reduction in elementary school staffing for certified teachers because of this cut, is what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
And so we have 4 retirements. We're plan to hire, advertise for 2 of those positions, not advertise for the other 2 positions. How did those other 2 holes get filled and funded?
Well, that's based on certification. I don't have the list of teachers in front of me. But,
Well, are they going to be filled?
they will be filled, yes. We have to fill them.
So 4 retirements in elementary classroom teachers, and 4 of those positions will be filled next year
Right,
with this cut,
right,
with the cut.
right. That's correct.
All right, I'll just offer a little clarification and then I'll go to Jen. So the retirements, I just pulled up the sheet. We have 1 kindergarten teacher at Thames River, a speech and language pathologist at Thames River, elementary at NEA, kindergarten at NEA, and a music teacher at NEA. Those are the 5 elementary school retirements that are on this list. So go ahead, Jen. Or were you done, Mike? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I don't know how many times Susan has to say there is no staff reduction when we removed the 128. She has said this like 10 times. No staff reduction with the removal of the 128. I mean, like, how are we only going to stop discussing this when we finally get concurrence of 0 reduction by all? Because I'm pretty sure I would like to call for a vote now because we've discussed this long enough. That's it.
All right. Well, it's just because it says, in my opinion, it says on the line, -2 FTE due to retirements, due to enrollment, and then retirements are in parentheses. That's the confusing part. So maybe we need to label that line.
Yeah, I think that did confuse you guys. I just meant with the retirements, we're not really gonna lose staff either, because we can mostly fill them with, it's fine. It's definitely retirement that probably complicated things.
So is that a retirement savings instead of a -2 FTE? Is that, should we
No.
rename
We've already
that?
taken the retirement savings. We already took the total number of positions times $15,000. It's out of the budget. I know that for a fact.
Oh, so this is a -2 FTE reduction,
Right.
what we're talking about.
No, it's minus the 128.
But it says, should we change the description? Is it retirement reduction savings? Is that what it is? Or is it a minus?
No, you can take out the retirement. That's complicating things.
I mean, if it's retirements, they retired young, for Pete's sake. That's 128 does not cover 2 people
No,
who put in
Right.
25, 30 years.
that's right.
So,
But it'd be a net, like, because you're going to rehire.
so since there's not going to be an FTE change, would it be fair to say that it was just an error or something like that versus?
No, what you could possibly do is the funding for 2 positions. Just put funding for 2 positions.
funding for 2 positions.
Right. It's the amount.
If it's gonna be that, keep it. If it's gonna be that, then we should get -2 FTE.
I'm
But
with
it,
Jen.
so,
Let's call for a vote.
right. So I guess based on everything I heard, I guess maybe you were saying that the reductions would have been in the retirements because that's a higher salary of the people that retired. And
Yeah, we've already taken care of that. So those
and
two
when I
kindergarten
asked
teachers in the district, we've already
when I
taken
asked-
care of that.
when I asked if the 128 was spent on certified teachers, would that increase the FTE from 127 to 129? You said yes. So that tells me that, you know, this would be in addition to what is already established. So if that's the paradigm in which we're voting, then let's vote on that. And I can live with the outcome, whatever it may be. I'm still in favor of a 0 cut here because I'd like to have that flexibility to try to invest some more in more staffing on the elementary level to try to, you know, identify the needs as the school year comes on and try to make some accommodations for that. But I can understand people's hesitancy to do such, and that's fine. So, you know, if the vote doesn't go for 0, then I can live with it. I'm not going to try to belabor the point any further. So I'm good to go.
All right, and then Jen, and then Andrea, and then hopefully we can vote.
I'm sorry, I didn't put my hand down from
All right.
before.
So maybe it's just Andrea.
Me too. I'm sorry.
Oh, all right. So, without any other further discussion, so we have 2 numbers right now, 128 and 0. Is there interest in any other numbers? All right.
I would say we can vote on the 0, and then, you know, if someone wants to throw a motion on for
All right,
64, we could do that then.
All right. So, so proposal to not take a reduction in object code 101, function 111. So for a $0 reduction from the budget.
I'm in favor, Thomas.
All right. Yeah, and I'm supporting a $0 reduction.
Whitney's in favor of 0 reduction.
All right. So we have in favor, Whitney, myself, and Ian. Anyone else in favor of a 0 reduction?
I am in favor of 0 reduction.
All right, Jay.
I'm confused. I want to leave things alone. Does that mean a 0 reduction?
No,
No.
no, we
Oh,
haven't got to
okay.
that yet.
All right. Okay.
So
All right.
you'd be
Thank
the
you.
128, I
Thank you.
believe. All right, opposed? All right, Dean,
I am.
I am.
Dean, Jen, Andrea, am I missing somebody?
Matt's not here, Bev's not here.
All right, so we're there. So, and then there's no room for abstentions, so looks like it passes as a 0 reduction.
It's a 4 to 3 by my
4 to
count.
3. Yeah. So it's Mike, myself, Ian, and Jay that are for a $0 change to the budget, and opposed by Dean, Jen, and Andrea.
So that's 4 to 3 to 0.
Correct.
Courteously.
Nope. Hold on. There we go.
Yes, note
Wait,
the name
okay.
carefully, Ian.
All right, so moving on to line 42. This one got a little bit confusing, but it was sports stipends and stipends for like teachers and staff for clubs and stuff. Am I explaining that correct?
Right. And I talked to Mark Romano And it's more from his budget with the sports, and it's things that he was able to reduce looking at the budget. So he felt comfortable removing that 60,000. Remember, the athletic budget is, one of our larger budgets. So in a high school, you have both the academic side and the athletics. But I did check with him before removing this amount.
All right. And I was just for clarity, because this one was a little bit confusing. In the FAQ, it moved money into summer school, but we're undoing that, correct? That's why there's a 0 up at line 38 now. Am I correct in that?
I don't know which, let me look at the page. What page are you on?
Well, it said we were going to move it originally. All right, no, out of 1,500 into summer school. That was in the FAQ. So basically, we're just going to disregard that number now, right? And summer school is just going to stay as initially proposed.
Yes, summer school is staying as initially
I
proposed.
believe was 40,000. So we briefly moved it up to 50,000. I can't remember where that was now. But anyway, summer school will stay where it is, wherever. No, special ed. Yeah, I can't find it right now, but it doesn't matter because we're not going to change it. So in this line, it got confusing because lines 126 on page 5-69, function 1500, they got consolidated into just 126.
Right.
To 518,690, I think. Where in FY25's budget, it was 353 on sports, and then other activities it was 102,000.
Right.
And I just did the math, and this new reduction of $60,000, that increase of that number ended up being a $57,935 increase on that line item. So if my math is correct, we're basically funding student stipends and sports activities just $2,000 less than it was funded last year, which is like, I don't know, 0.3% or something, 2,000 out of 500,000. So it's essentially flat year to year.
Yes.
Or relatively close to flat year to year on, between 126 and 127. And I see you there, John, but I'm just is it possible to have it in the budget that goes to John Burt to have numbers in 126 and 127 so we can see if there's a change in sports or other, like it was last year?
To have it broken out again?
Yeah.
I will ask Ray.
The FAQ kind of broke it out, but but now I'm not sure if that was right, that breakout that the FAQ had. So can we, we can vote on the $60,000 reduction, but however that total works out, I would personally like to see it separated so we can see how much we're spending on sports coaches, assistant coaches, and how much we're spending on like the people that are running, the clubs and stuff, like robotics.
Okay. I've just put a note to myself to have Ray do that.
All right. And then Jen, and then Mike.
I don't know how my hand got up. I apologize. I don't have any comments to say.
All right. Anybody else have any comments or questions or anything?
I just want to say
Go ahead, Mike.
I just want to say I'm glad we're going to put the number in student activities, because that's one of those lines that people flip to every year at different levels of government. So if they see that as 0, we'd be getting a lot of questions that we don't need to have to say, well, no, really, there are activities that we should lump together.
I agree.
So
I don't know why that was
save
done
everyone time.
I don't understand why that was actually done, Mike. That was how it was handed to us. We got we had a lot to deal with when it was handed to us. So,
Understood.
All right, Ian?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I just wanted to get a little bit of clarity on the 60,000. This reduction would, like, what would this change? Is this an addition that is just going to be held back, or is this something that is going to be something that was established and being reduced this year?
there's no reductions. It's just looking at the 4-year contract and the stipends and making it more realistic. You know,
Okay.
it's just savings that Mark felt that you could do without losing anything. But I'll get you the breakout of which is the clubs and which is the sports.
Yeah, I would appreciate the breakout on that. Like, so any given, like, are these the stipends that pay for the coaches?
Yep, the teachers and the coaches. Yep, and it's per contract, so it's not anything we decide on
Oh,
a year-to-year basis. So it's basically built into the contract.
so this is just a more accurate calculation of what those contractual obligations are.
Yes, that's what he said. Yep.
Okay, well, in that case, I can't think of a reason to object to that. So I'm fine with the 60,000 number, I guess.
So just for the numbers, if we take the 60,000, it would be, that lines 26 and 27 would sum to $455,919. That would be how much we're spending this year. And for comparison, what we spent last year was 458,690. So that's the total of those lines, like roughly $2,000 less. So, are there any other questions, or can we vote on this one? All right. Anybody like to make a proposal? All right. So everybody that's in favor of a $60,000 reduction on lines 126 and 127 and 1500, say aye.
Aye.
Or
Aye.
put your hand up because it's gonna be confusing. If you don't mind. Dean,
Yes, sir.
are you in favor of the $60,000 reduction?
But my hand is up.
Oh, all right. Sorry, I didn't see it.
Yep, it's
You
too
have a
pale. I
different
know.
color hand than everybody else.
Well, I'm trying to match my complexion.
Oh, all right. And J, I see J, so it's unanimous, right? Yep. All right. So it's unanimous. 60,000 deduction. All right. So that is all we have on this sheet.
Can I see what that number is? Because you know how I like numbers.
Yeah. So it'd be a 7.35% reduction from, well, where are we?
Increase.
Yes. 7.35% increase from FY25. Total is 94,400
Million.
for 560, and it would be a $6,466,076 increase from last year's budget. All right, Ian, do you have a question or anything?
Oh, yeah. So I just wanted to kind of check in on. We talked a little bit about the budget software last night. And in the heat of the moment, I kind of misfired mathematically, and I understand that Clint was talking about a $330,000 CIP with the town that was gonna somehow be like a joint venture. And we had the 115,000 that we allotted for this current fiscal year that, you know, I'm hoping to see make its way through the budget and end up in our non-lapsing fund, since we haven't been able to spend it on what we identified it for. But I guess a couple of questions. First off, what function code and line item was that 115,000 attached to?
I don't know. I'd have to ask Ray.
Okay.
Yeah.
And second, I guess we're looking at it would be 165,000 would actually represent the halfway mark of the 330,000 figure. So as I was thinking about today, and what I was trying to get at last night was that I think in order to try to encourage the town council and the RTM to support that CIP, I thought it might be a strong move for the board to first vet the proposed CIP from our end and vote on it in as far as like a symbolic vote, saying that, you know, we endorse the idea of going to that budget software in such a way as proposed by the CIP once we get a look at all the details of it.
Mhm.
But then also maybe since we have 115,000 already allotted towards the budget software, we would only need looks like 50,000 more in order to meet the town halfway on that 330,000 figure. And so I guess I would propose that we add 50,000 to this budget in order to with it identified as being additional to the budget software upgrade to be added to that 115,000 and be held in standby to match the town should the town carry through and pass that CIP. So with all that as an explainer, I would make a motion to add 50,000 to our budget for budget software upgrades.
All right, Jay, did you have a question on this topic? Comment?
Yes. Yeah, I just want to clarify when we talked about the 115,000 last year with the business manager at the time, Dave. His idea was to purchase a system for budget planning and also to explain the budget, to make it web-based, and make these budget building exercises more transparent and more informative for us and the public. That's different than Munis, which is the system which records the debits and credits, so to speak. I think the industry calls it an ERP. It is where the chart of accounts lies, and the debits and credits are posted, as the financial transactions go through the system. So they're two different things. Now, if the board wants to reallocate and abandon the idea of a budget building system, where we can make this whole process flow better and be more understandable for everybody, and reallocate it to an accounting system, which Munis is, that's fine. I don't want to muddy the waters because they are two completely different systems. And the budget building system would ideally talk back and forth with the accounting system, so that it wouldn't have to be manual entries, but they would still be two standalone systems.
if I could respond,
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
would,
Yeah.
I would say I thank Jay for his clarification on that, and um, yeah, my memory of it is I guess is a little more is a little different, but either way, at the end of the day, like it's for financial management, budget construction, and I'm not sure we're sort of operating at a disadvantage here because we don't have Ray and we don't have Clint, or do we have Clint? I
No.
don't think we have Clint.
No.
So I'm not
But
even
I
sure
do
if
think
there
they were
was.
they were very responsive to the CIP. I think we need to have that go through its course and listen to what I think, wasn't Clint saying that he was going to try to get the vendor in or several vendors in to talk to us and to the town, I thought.
Yeah, I heard that too, and I'm not sure. I didn't get a good understanding whether or not there would be an expectation that, as a joint venture, I mean, is the town expecting us to come up with some percentage of that CIP money
I hadn't
from our
heard that,
budget?
Ian. I hadn't heard that.
So
At
this
least that
may
hasn't been communicated with me.
be we may just that motion may just we may just have to let it die on the vine, because thinking about that, I'm not sure. I don't want to get out over our skis either. But that's what I was trying to get some
Yeah,
understanding
it
of
might be a
last
little
night.
premature. It might be a good thought for later, but I think we need to get our ducks in a row and learn more about this, even me. I've just heard
Yeah.
really good things about it. And I think there's synergy between the town and the board having something that can respond to one another. And you're less likely to have human error for human entries to things and passing them over to town employees from our side and their side going back and forth. I think it's going to be a better
Got
tool
it.
for everybody to use, is what I'm understanding, but I don't know a lot more than that. And I'm learning, I would like to learn more.
Yeah. So I guess in that light, I mean, if I would, I'll just withdraw the motion, unless somebody really wants to kind of run with it. But because I guess we need to know more about the CIP, the nuts and
Yeah.
bolts of like what's expected of us. I'm in favor of the idea. I just need more details, and I definitely want to honor some of that. I mean, I do remember a lot of that discussion that Jay mentioned, and yes, we were looking for a dual approach. One, to try to attain better construction techniques and methods, as well as better accounting systems, and something that would meld with the town. So yeah, I guess we just have to wait and see about the what happens with the CIP, and wait to see well we and watch for that 115. I guess that's one takeaway here, is I just would like to have that answered either in the FAQ or with an email, as far as like where that 115,000 is located in the 2025 budget, so that we can kind of keep a finger on it, and make sure it doesn't it gets to where it needs to go, as far as like the non-lapsing fund, and then stand on standby for us to make a decision.
Okay, I wrote it down. It's on my list.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm
Jay,
all set.
question?
Yeah, I just want to mention real quick. So my understanding was, if we go with the single instance with the town in the cloud, that would be totally covered by CIP and not operating budget.
Right.
And
I
again, the
do too.
115,000, I've done some research on that. The vendor is one of the vendors, which is agnostic as to the system we use for the accounting, is willing to come in at our first opportunity to get a demonstration of what that budget planning software is, so that it can be spent in the current year, if that's the will of the board. So I just thought I'd put that in there as a placeholder.
All right. Yeah, I think that all warrants more discussion, but to try to keep it on the topic of the budget for next year for FY 26. If that proposal's off, hopefully we'll be able to talk about that soon. But we'll stick with things on the budget. So, is there anyone else? Any other questions, comments, discussion on the budget revision?
I just wanted to, can you hear me?
Yes.
I know Mike expressed an interest to run back, just to take a quick sweep through 31 to 37. And looking at those now, while having some discussion on these and looking at my notes from prior meetings, I know that we discussed our ROTC and took that reduction off the board. We took the 1108 math field trip reduction off the board. The IB and AP testing, I believe we voted on, and it did not pass.
Correct.
So that was taken off the board. So the only ones that don't strike me as familiar and having been discussed are the last two, 36 and 37. So maybe we could just briefly touch on those and make sure that those are things that either have been handled or we could handle them right now.
Yeah. Before we get to those, I'm just going to go back to ROTC because I know that Mike had brought this up and just ask for some details into that budget. So I know we talked about not changing that number, but to get, we just have a base number, but nothing really else. So he had requested that. So I'm going to follow up with that question if we have any details yet into that budget, and if not, if we can get them.
I had said that it's more than uniforms. Of course, you'd always have to replace uniforms and the jackets and that kind of thing for different sizing. But there's also a lot of after school activities and transportation, competitions, even on weekends. So there is a stipend probably that would be necessary even for the instructor for his overtime or his time beyond the school day. But I will get a list of things that add up to the 50,000 for you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, Mike's back, but he needs to be promoted to panelist. Adrian, are you able to do that?
Oh, I don't know how to
I'm
do
doing it right now.
that. All right.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I guess Susan, a quick question. Was there any your email, could you do a search and see if there's was there communication from the instructor where maybe that was itemized out in the request?
No, I haven't. Yeah, I have not received that. I had talked to him about getting that together. So, but he will. I'll remind him tonight.
Okay.
All right, Mike,
That sounds good. Thank you.
Just to bring you up to speed, Mike, we had just requested the detail into the ROTC line, the more detailed budget, and Susan's going to get that back to us. All right, so 12.6, so moving down to 119, 601, computer supply, or is that 6?
Yeah, so actually I just went back into my notes.
Classroom supplies for unclassified. What is that for?
Yeah, I think that's a pending reduction, right? Because there are no FTEs in there, so there's no need to have the benefits. Not benefits.
601, it says general classroom supplies. Oh, is that one of the ones where we were talking about all of the supplies? And then we ended up requesting 100,000 in total and said we were going to leave all of the individual ones alone or something like that. Am I correct in that?
No, I think the object number is wrong. I think the note says we're removing the SSI. There's no FTEs in the unclassified account, so there's no reason to have lines 212 to 227, which add up to 67,998. And so that needs to be removed.
I think two things got confused in this one line. Because object 601 is the general classroom supplies, $75,000.07 or sorry, $75,007. And there was somewhere else in this list. Did we talk about reducing overall supply? Yeah, so the overall general supply to request to reduce was 100,000. So I now I'm having a memory. I think I brought this up and pointed out that that's 3/4 of that 100,000 right there. If we took that out, that'd only leave this line 19 to be another 25,000 in supplies to be removed somewhere else in order to make that $100,000 target.
If I can throw in some clarification really quick, I've got it in front of me. The 67,998, to kind of go back to what Jay was saying, that so yeah, maybe the 601 wasn't correct, because that number is in the FY26 budget, and that covers Social Security, Medicare, unemployment tax, and mentor stipend to add up to that, but there are no FTEs in that category. So so Jay, is that your understanding that maybe I'd kind of missed this before too, but maybe all that should be zeroed out. I don't know about the $1,500 stipend for mentor, but
No, we
but the
can't zero that out, please.
Medicare, Social Security, all of that stuff. Should we get rid of that because it doesn't seem to be associated with anybody? Can anyone answer that question?
I'm looking,
So
are you looking
I,
under 1119? Where are you?
Yeah,
trying to catch up with you.
5-40, 5-41,
Okay,
1119, unclassified 6 to 12.
so
It says it's a grouping of all instructional and other costs not attributed to major programs. Budgeted expenses include contractual severance payments to teachers and administrators, health insurance benefits for retired employees, employee assistance program payments, and unemployment compensation payments. Additionally, the building substitute teacher charges are allocated in this as well. Charges. So is that what that stuff's for? The Social Security, Medicare is for the building subs that are in other parts of the budget?
yeah, I wouldn't take that out. I mean, I want to make sure that that's in the area that we've designed for 1,700 district-wide, although it looks like Social Security, Medicare was kept in the function where there were staffing. And I don't see subs, I don't see summer school. But I do see a mentor stipend and a student intern and some other miscellaneous staffing. So I wouldn't want to take that out unless I knew those people were covered. There's a repair of equipment.
Yeah, the rest of it seems reasonable to leave in, but it's the Social Security, Medicare, unemployment tax, probably those three where there's numbers but no FTEs assigned in this category. But
then there's a student intern.
Maybe it's for oh yeah.
I think that's too risky. I will check though with Lori just to make sure what this is.
Right. Well, there's a bit of a relic here, I think, of the substitute teachers and the things that used to be in this in this function code, and I think that's just a vestigial limb. And is it in our budget now? Like, so that would be a clerical correction?
That's what I want to double check with Peter Jennings to make sure.
In that case, that would be like
we've been leaving the Social Security and Medicare with any staffing in that function. It doesn't have FTEs, but there is a student intern in here. And I don't know if this state unemployment tax is just miscellaneously stuck here. I don't know. I've got to find out though. That's the first time I'm really
cut that.
No,
I wouldn't cut 223 because it's the only instance of that account in the entire budget.
Right.
So that 35,000 is necessary. We do have to pay into unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
But the Social
But the
Security
total-
Medicare looks like leftover, like you said.
Okay. So should we put in a correction here?
No, I think
SSI.
let Lori and Peter Jennings look at it. Leave those
And
funds
let's-
alone.
Jen's
I mean, I
looking
just want to
at
make sure. I mean,
Jen and then Mike.
So I'm the one who brought that up a couple weeks ago, and they were supposed to look into that a couple weeks ago because I think we were going through it and it was like, hey, the salaries were removed. So why weren't all the associated benefits moved? Or if not even there, just transferred into the 1700 account just for consolidation, even though it's not the regular benefits line. So, so I guess we can wait to have Lori look or just leave it. But that was something that we had brought up like a couple weeks ago.
did it get in the FAQ sheet? Do you know, Jen?
I'm not
I didn't see it.
sure.
Because that's how I've been
Yeah.
keeping track of everything. I apologize if you didn't get it, but I do
No,
think we
it's
need to
okay.
look at it. And I don't know if it ends up being
Yeah.
something that's a little extra in the budget to be
Yeah.
used for other insurances and things, then that's just only going to help us in the long run. It's
Exactly.
not a whole
So
lot
maybe
of
they
money.
just, yeah, no, it's not. And considering what we all put back today, that's like
Yeah.
nothing. So
Right.
maybe we just move it into the 1700 account. So then this way, like all of that types of
All of
benefits
it's
and social
together.
security and everything is all together.
Okay, I will make that suggestion. Thank you.
And then the last one, 1260, trim down. So that's enrichment. Trim down to 56,000. It says total in that function. It says the total is 56,883. So
I would say that that's the only enrichment and after school activities that we have for elementary. So I know you guys have talked a lot about elementary, and there are some homework clubs and some additional things that like tutoring for middle school. It has increased so that we could do some of that for middle school. So I would say that that's the only thing they have when you think of an athletic budget and clubs for high school and all that we put in for the intramurals and the sports for middle school. That's the only little bit that we have for elementary, and they use it. And parents and kids love it for those after school opportunities.
yeah, just for anybody who might not have it, I'll just say what the numbers are. So the bottom line number in that category. Last year, the FY25 budget, it was 39,829. The year before, with the actual used was 37,432. So the proposed for this year is 56,883, which is a $17,000 increase from FY25, which represents 42% increase or 43% increase from the year before. So, Mike.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, is this the one where at the middle school level, maybe this year and the previous years, it was covered by a grant, and then that wouldn't be happening coming year?
Yes. And they, they do have a few clubs that they also sponsor. They do a drone club, they do a robotics team. So I think those are really important for middle schoolers as well.
Thank you. And for me, I think just as much as we've got a 1-to-1 Chromebook ratio, I think the school system is striving to have at least a 1-to-1. Every student should have an after-school activity or an enrichment activity that speaks to them and they can do.
I agree. And sometimes that ends up being a career pathway because they love it so much.
So for this one, I'll move a number of 0 as a reduction.
Mike, you all set with comments?
Yes.
Let's just take a vote. Everybody in support of the zero? Leave that as it is.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I,
All right. So Ian and Mike were both ayes. Jay, I think I heard you were an aye. Is that correct, guys? All right. I think that's what I heard. So I'm going to go that it's unanimous. Everybody's in favor of zeroing it. There
All
are
right.
more up there with hands up, so we'll leave it.
okay.
All right.
Um,
Or 5 with Ian. Yeah.
so just for clerical sake, and I wasn't sure, I just put this in there as potential. That's why I highlighted it as yellow. But like I said, line 19, we had agreed on trying to find $100,000 in general classroom supplies reduction. And then in function code 1119, represented in line 36, there is 75,000 in supplies that's unclassified. So
So we did take the 100,000 for general classroom supplies. That's about all I can do. Otherwise, we won't have any supplies.
exactly. So this is sort of like a zero sum change. All I did was just attach the $75,007 specifically from 1119 as one line item, and then left the 24,993 that's left to be made up to make the 100,000 in line 19. Does that make sense to everyone?
Well, I think that you've already got the 100,000 accounted for, so we can't take anything additionally.
It's not additional. It's just I just identified a specific line where, you know,
Okay.
3/4 of it would go away. I mean, we could go back to the way it was. I don't have any problem with that either.
But on line 19, were we just at 100,000 there? And then you changed it?
Yes, exactly. This is and this is a proposed like arrangement of information. It doesn't change the bottom line number. But if if people would rather have it the way it was, I can put it back.
I mean, I'm thinking that as it was.
I think I have to figure that out. If you're talking about generally cutting supplies,
Okay.
I had taken from the 601 general classroom supplies, 100,000.
Yeah, I think
Right.
leaving it as it was gives Susan the option of pulling
Yeah, it
wherever
gives me more
she feels
flexibility so I can take
Yeah.
from the least.
in
Yeah.
my opinion. Any other opinions on that?
Yep. All right. We're back to where it was.
All right. All right. So do we have all of them now? Everything?
Well, the one thing is, where do we land on this as far as on line 43? That was our function code. Are we waiting for information, or is this a number that is
No,
in the budget somewhere?
Put that 0. That we're not taking that out. That's too fragile. I've got to figure out. I'm gonna make sure that we've got that covered somewhere. We can't take
Okay,
out a
right.
state unemployment tax. I think, like Jay said, that's the only place it happens.
So
So,
that would
I'll
leave.
move 0.
yeah,
We didn't vote.
thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Anyone else supporting 0 on that? I do.
Yep, I'm in favor of that.
So 5, Mike, Ian, Dean. Unanimous.
Yep, I support 0.
Oh, all right. All right,
And
so
moving it to
leave that as 0.
1,700. And and moving it to function code 1,700. So it's all consolidated.
Yeah, I wrote that
So
down
what-
too in my book,
yeah.
Jen. Thank you.
Yep.
I'll review it with Ray tomorrow.
All right.
Now
All right.
Ray has this to take care of, and then we also have the town reviewers coming into the business office. So we are busy busy.
All right, well, we know what takes priority because we have 2 days.
This takes a priority. I know they've got
So-
some interviews,
So
but
the reviewer might be able to wait until March 1st if we're not going to get this done.
well, I know we have to get
Hopefully
this
we're
done.
almost-
We got to work around it.
Yeah. So is there any more discussion? All
Are you
right.
asking for other items to cut or?
No.
Or I don't know.
No. Please no.
Well, I'm asking.
I do-
for
I do have one.
discussion. I'm asking for other discussion, if anybody has.
Are
any.
you asking for motion to adjourn? Is that what you're asking?
Motion to
No,
adjourn.
no, we can't do that.
We have a
to
very
vote.
important
I'm
motion before that one.
asking.
Don't even
Um,
kid about that.
All right, so does anybody, all
So-
right, so I will, all right, do you want to make a motion, Mike? Or you want to discuss something?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to remove $63,000 for the Fitch PA system, and I'm doing that for discussion purposes.
Well, I wish Clint was here.
All right.
Yeah,
Anybody
he
want to
probably
second?
doesn't need to be for this discussion.
Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah, well, I guess we don't need a second, right? Yeah, do you have, yeah. I would second
Yeah,
it.
my rationale is just that I don't want to see it both in the CIPs and in our budget. And what we got from last time, that there's no guarantee it's going to make it in what John Burt puts forward. But if we do include, right now it's in our budget, that we're talking about now. So if we include funds for our PA system in this budget, then I say we let John Burt know right away so they can withdraw it from the CIP. Or, this is why I put up the reduction, or we could take a gamble that the fact that it's advanced at least one step, that it might come through, because it certainly does fall into infrastructure. So that's my rationale. So I don't want to have it in both places.
All right, Ian? Ian, do you have a comment or?
I understand the gambit. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, based on prior experience, I'm inclined to leave it in the operational budget. And hope, I don't know, but yeah, if somehow the CIP passes through, then we could look at the 63,000 as another place. Like, what else could we do with it? We could, in our operational budget, we do have the power to reassign money after the fact. There is a process for that. So, in the case that the CIP does pass, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. I guess.
So I just saw Clint said he could weigh in if he wanted. Just his take on things.
Yeah, Clint's on, so yeah, Clint, if you can, if you've got some clarity on this, that'd be great.
Clint, are you there?
You there, Clint?
I just texted him.
Does he need to get promoted to a panelist, maybe?
No, he's co-host with me.
Okay, thanks.
While we're waiting, I just want to make sure it's clear. It doesn't look like we're asking for the same thing in two different places.
Hi, everybody, I'm here.
But
All right, yeah, Clint, could you, so Mike's question was, I guess you were talking about having the PA system in a CIP and discussion on whether that should be in the budget if it's in a CIP. So could you explain where that is in process right now with the town?
So the CIP, Sam and I presented, as he mentioned, to the planning and zoning. They asked why we were presenting Munis, along with other things, but we presented as we were asked to. And my understanding is that they blessed those and pushed them through, although Sam and I are still waiting for confirmation and minutes from that meeting.
So they blessed Munis and the PA system?
So the three on the IT side were, and Munis was really put in as a budget, as a finance office. So the only two IT were PA for 63K and cameras for 100K. And then whatever Sam had in.
All right. So I kind of support Mike's thought that we shouldn't be asking for money in two places. I know this started out in the budget, but it sounds like it was a change in the CIP. But I would like to see if hear any other board members that have an opinion on this. Anyone?
I already said my piece.
I have a
So I'd like to
question.
hear others.
I have a question. So am I understanding then that the town may want to consolidate? This is really coming from the town, that they're the ones that want to consolidate with us and in essence, save money overall.
If I
would say-
may,
Yeah, go ahead.
if you're speaking of Munis, Andrea, this has been a joint effort between, John Bird has been involved, Liz Spellman, my counterpart on the town side, has been involved, and we are absolutely in the fact-finding stage of it now. We do have a ballpark proposal. We've gone through 2 rounds of that. The next scheduled meeting is to go through the chart of accounts, because that is a very important thing when you're merging into one main system, keeping those separate. So that is being scheduled as we speak. So I would assume that there would be a third slight change in what this will cost ultimately. But to answer your question directly, yes, the right people from the town and the Board of Ed are at the table. No promises have been made. No additional funds have been allotted, but this is where the ship is being steered. And I do personally think it's a good idea for the town of Groton.
And then the sell would be that overall, there would be a savings to the taxpayer.
There would be an ultimate savings to the taxpayer. And as this board has discussed quite a bit, I think there would be a better process overall, or at least the opportunity for a better process from budgeting, from management and so forth.
Thank you.
Just a quick point of clarification, I guess. That last exchange had to do with the Munis, but what we're discussing right now has to do with removing the PA system upgrade from the Board of Ed operational budget. Since we're apparently also asking for it in the CIP.
Right.
It does make sense. Good idea, Mike Whitney.
Jen?
So,
I'll support Mike on that. Makes sense that we shouldn't have it in 2 places.
So I guess I would go to Clint and say, what would you prefer, knowing that we have to pass a budget tonight, and it seems like a few board members at least don't feel like it should be in 2 places. What do where would you rather see this? Would you rather see it go through the CIP? It's kind of your project, so would you rather see it go to CIP now, or would you rather have it in our budget?
Thank you for asking. I understand the as a former board member, I certainly understand the concern with having it in two locations. I worry about this from a security standpoint because I'm doing everything I can, working with now one single vendor that I'm aware of in Connecticut that can actually service this product. So my fingers are crossed every time we have a lightning strike or a storm or what have you. That all being said, I think it is squarely a CIP ask. It is a large capital improvement system that obviously we haven't updated in almost 50 years. So I think if we look at it through that lens, it should be a CIP request. And we could then tell the story of how it was removed from the operating budget because we clearly saw it as a CIP request. And we were doing our due diligence to make sure that we're not, having it allotted in two places and being accused of double counting.
You're going to join us when we go to talk about that, Clint, and Mike too.
All right.
I
Mike,
have-
yeah, I appreciate that, Clint. Mike and then Ian.
Yeah, and just quickly, the existing PA system isn't just a box in an inaccessible area, as Clint has described. It also, of course, snakes through the whole school system. So it really is infrastructure situation to upgrade and replace it.
Right.
I'm happy to make the case for that.
All right. In that case, having heard Clint speak on it and thinking on it further, I'll support Mike's motion as well.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right. So all in favor of removing the PA system from our operational budget and putting it into a CIP, $1,000. So everyone that's in favor, please raise your hand. All right. Myself and then Ian. All right, so unanimous. We're removing it. All right. 7.28% increase. All right, any more discussion? I see Ian and Jay's hands are still up. I don't know if it's on purpose.
Sorry, that was inadvertent. I have nothing further. I think 7.28 is a fair number to land on, and I think we've done our due diligence here the best we can, and I'm ready to move forward and finalize.
All right, so does anyone want to make the motion to approve? Should I read it and then see if somebody wants to make it? Is that the easiest way to do this?
Yeah, entertain motion.
All right, so I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the FY26 budget in the amount of $94,361,560.44, which is a 7.28% increase over the FY25 budget.
Can't we just round that cents to dollars?
Yes. All right. So let's delete the 44. 94,584,000. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm reading the wrong line now. 94,000
Million.
Million.
You've been.
I do that too.
I thought it was going to be a 1 hour meeting. 94,361,560, a 7.28% increase.
That 44 cents is going to come out of Mike's pocket.
Straight out of the board side.
I will pay it. I found a quarter on the street yesterday.
That'll go a long way.
560.28. All right. Anyone want to make that motion?
So moved.
All right. Ian? Do I have a second?
I'll second. And just can you read it out again before the vote?
All right. All right. So the motion to approve the fiscal year 26 budget in the amount of $361,560, which is a 7.28% increase over the fiscal year 25 budget. All right. Any discussion? Andrea, do you have, or Dean?
No, I'm voting.
All right, Dean, you have discussion?
Am I first up? All right.
Yes.
I missed last year. I was overseas. I have in my head the outlines of the little speech I was going to give last year. I'm not going to keep us here very long, but I think this has to be said. I know that I haven't done the percentages for this one, but if you look at Susan's original proposed number, I know that I'd said if you took our budget from 13 years ago and you stepped up 1.98% every year, you would reach from 13 years ago to today with Susan's original budget, not counting the additional 6.4 million. And everything that we talk about, this budget cycle, previous budget cycles, everything that's added, subtracted, but mostly added because it has gone up over the years, is a logical piece on top of last year's piece, which is on top of the previous year's piece. Everything has a rationale to it. And yet, from another point of view, it remains a lot of money that is spent. It's a town of 40,000 people. We are not a big burg. We have a couple of large taxpayers, thank goodness. They take up about 20% of the slack, I think. I'm not sure where they are on the grand list. Groton Long Point is another 10% of the grand list. So, but for that, this would be represent a pretty large hit, a larger hit. It's not about comparing us with other towns. Hey, we're better. We're in the middle. Don't feel so bad. It could be worse. You could be Salem, or I'm just, pulling other towns out of the air. It's a lot of money. It's still $94 million to educate, 4,000 plus kids, make it 4,500 kids. And as I've said before many times, there doesn't have to be, even though it's enshrined in our state constitution, but that's not gospel either. It doesn't have to be mass public education. There is sort of a societal compact that we will all pay to have free education on a mass basis. By mass, I mean kids don't have individual tutors. Everybody gets together, except for exceptions. They get together in a classroom of however many kids, and there's a teacher and whoever else is necessary. We provide the building, we provide the heat, the lights, the seats, materials, the people in the classrooms, transportation, and almost anything else that is needed. Not everything else is needed, but a lot of whatever else is needed. So our job is to provide all of that. Kids' job is to show up and, as much as possible, do their best. And it's on their head, and I hate to put it on little kids' heads, but as they get older, yes, it is on their head if they don't achieve their full potential. They have a hand in it as well, and as do the families that are supposed to be behind them. And I don't know whether the scores from 3rd, 5th, 8th grade are reflective of anything, but there's a general sense of the kids are not performing as well as they could. And who is that? And we're putting it on us to put more resources in these budgets. And what we have is the picture I can't shake out of my mind is the picture of a horse, the stick, and then a carrot. If the horse would just keep walking, that horse will eventually get the carrot. If we keep spending this money, and most people I've talked to, except for the lunatics, most people I've talked to are happy to spend money to even gold plate when the kids are actually educated. I would like at some point, I don't know how to do this, but I would like at some point to be able to say, we spent a hell of a lot of money and check out the results. I don't know how that looks. I don't know how that's measured. And maybe we're doing it now, but we keep talking about dismal test scores, dismal SATs, and dismal other metrics that we use. It just feels like we're going to do this and we're going to keep doing it and we're going to keep telling ourselves, if we just spend more money, if we just devote more resources, it will get better. What is our plan for getting to nirvana or wherever it is that we're headed? When is it going to end? And again, I realize it's not as simple as saying, fine, here's my 5-year goal or my 2-year goal or my 10-year goal. This is tough stuff. You're dealing with thousands of kids. I get it. And sometimes there is no solution. Maybe this is the best that can be done. I mean, how old is the book or the piece, Johnny can't, why can't Johnny read? That's from decades ago. This is not a new problem. So maybe this is just a phenomenon. I don't know. But I have a feeling I'm going to vote for the budget, but with this idea that, again, it's always a lot of money. And is this, are we going in the right direction? Are we going to get there? Is the horse ever going to get the carrot? The horse gets hit with a stick, but is the horse ever going to get the carrot at the end of the day? There, I vented.
Ian and then Mike.
Yeah, thank you. I would, I definitely can empathize with Dean's concerns and comments, and yeah, I think overall, it's a thing that we always have to do a critical analysis of, and that's why I look forward to working with this board and this administration to find ways to different ways and to capture data, to try to assess progression, not necessarily looking at comparative numbers to other districts, as Dean noted, but how we are functioning within our own selves, and not standardized tests can only tell you one element of the picture. So I definitely look forward to finding ways to better capture that, and also looking at ways to better deliver curriculum and increase student engagement, and find ways to continue to find like what Dean has also alluded to as like a steady state, like where can we produce functional citizens, and education to me has always seemed like an extension of public safety. It's that critical in my mind as far as like providing a foundation. And sometimes, like, if the scores aren't showing what we want them to, well, maybe the lenses that we're looking through are not necessarily the best too. So we always have to keep that in mind. And no, I don't think that more money equals better solutions at all. I agree that we always have to take a critical analysis of that and have that as an ongoing running filter. But that being said, I think we've done our due diligence to the best of our abilities with this budget, and the 7.28% increase is a fair thing, and does kind of seem to be consistent across the region as far as like what other school districts are coming up with. There have been a number of dynamics associated with our situation. One is shared across all school districts in not just the state, but the nation, as far as like inflation and just the rising cost of electricity and other resources. But also, we do have that, what I've euphemistically referred to as the point spread, the 1.2%, that is a 0% increase to the taxpayer. That was just transferred from the town budget to the board budget. Last year was a transitional year. Last year was that figure was not in the operational budget. We covered the expenses through supplemental grants and non-lapsing fund. But this is the first year where the nurses are fully integrated into the operational budget. So that's a 0% increase to the taxpayer, but it is a 1.2% increase to the board budget. So that being said, I think, this is a number that I can support as a board member. So I look forward to moving on to the next phase of the process. Thank you all.
Jen?
You want Mike to go first, just in case he loses internet connection?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Mike, I
Yeah.
think you're up first anyway.
Thank you. And that's what I was going to say. I might lose internet connection soon. So just going to clearly register my vote as yes, in support of the budget number moved. And I'll keep it brief for once and thank everyone for all the time and effort put into constructing the budget, considering the budget. And I do feel that this is a budget that supports the educational needs of Groton's children.
Thank you, Mike. And Jen?
So I'm going to support this budget. I will admit it was a long and painful process. We can do things to improve it next year. However, even though it was long and painful, I think this year, at least for me as being a new board member, and this is the second time going around, I feel like we as a board made strategic decisions and made conscious efforts to invest in areas where we feel that can improve the outcomes for the students because they don't get a second chance. We also made investments in the health, like through the nurses, and and through Susan's grant, which is not going to be in this budget, but like investments in security. So overall, I think it was more comprehensive. And for at least me, it's a better understanding of what's in the budget. So it is defendable. I was supporting it and defending it last year, but this year I feel more comfortable doing so. Obviously, there's areas where I don't feel like we should have reinvested, and that occurred tonight. But overall, as an entire board, I feel like we put in a good effort in supporting Susan and her team. And even though I know I was critical of the administration, I do appreciate all the work that they put in. Thank you.
All right, Jay? Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, I just want to thank all of you for all the time that we've spent going through this budget line by line. We've generated at least 100 questions in the FAQ. And so I also want to say thank you to the staff that answered those questions and followed up and gave clarity to, all of the issues in this district. It's complicated, and it's complicated by the makeup of this district, which is somewhat unique for all the reasons that you know. So I'm appreciative to you and the staff, and now we just move forward. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Jay. Anyone else like to say something?
I think everything
yeah,
was said. I think everything was said and said well. And I'm just waiting for you to tell me what to do.
all right. Yeah, and I'll close out by thanking especially the staff, because this was a lot of after hours work. The board signed up for this. We knew we were coming into this, and we made decisions to run these long meetings. You guys were dragged through them to some extent, and I know it was a tough process, but I really do appreciate everything that everybody's been put into this. Not central office, obviously, mostly, but also the schools. We had other people in it as well. So when I started with the board, you know, knocking on doors, my focus was going to be to do what I could to bring up the youngsters and get our youngest students, you know, more capable of handling the workload, thinking, you know, with the idea that we would be giving back to the community and we would be spending less money in services later on. And I feel like this budget was a small step towards that. I mean, we obviously didn't add a ton of money into those kids, but we did add some services and supported a little special ed a little bit more. So you know, we did a lot of work on this, and I feel like we really went very well as a board. So I am fully supportive of this and appreciate everybody's work on it, all the board members and everyone.
And I just want to thank you all. This was really quite the challenge of a lifetime, being left with something that was incomplete and, you know, not having the leadership in that business department, but having Ray come back. And I definitely will pass on your appreciation to our very committed staff, whether they're in the school or they're with, you know, they're in central office. And I couldn't have done this without all the hard work that you guys have put into it. And I really applaud the investment that you've made. I mean, I came out trying to whittle it down to get it, but I think what you've done is really admirable. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I'm thinking it's probably most appropriate just to do a roll call vote on this. Oh, did you have something to say, Andrew?
No,
Oh, all right. So,
I forgot. Thank you.
I will start with Mike, just so we can make it official. If he's still there. So what's your vote?
Yes.
All right.
Aye. Yes.
All right. Andrea?
Aye. You want a
Right.
hand?
No, that's good. We got it. Jen?
Yes.
All right. Ian?
Yes.
All right. Dean?
Yay.
Jay?
Aye.
All right. And I am also a yes, or an I. Did I miss anybody? All right. All right. So with that, the motion passed and we have a budget.
Can you say the count?
Yes, so it was unanimous 7-0.
Thank you.
And
Habemus budget.
what's that?
Habemus budget.
Yeah. All right.
Budget time.
All right. Would anyone like to say anything else? All right.
Andrea.
Well, thank you, everybody. And Andrea, I think she has something to say for us.
Motion to adjourn. Well done.
Well done. Thank you
Second.
all.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you all. We'll see you next week.
No, well,
Yeah.
technically, you gotta
We
say all
gotta
in
vote.
favor, opposed, all that
Yep.
stuff,
Wait, what's that?
formalities.
You can
You
also
gotta take the
declare
We have to
actual
vote to
vote on-
adjourn.
All right. I vote aye.
Full vote to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nice job, Captain Adrian.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right. I think we're good. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Well done.